Okay, cool. We're live. Just gonna
Excellent.
do a quick double check. Check,
Okay.
check. All right, cool. I really don't understand why they are doing all of these like captions. Um,
Captions for.
yeah. It's like auto captioning our text or like our voice into
Oh, is
text.
it? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of cool. It's pretty accurate, but I don't know why it's
Yeah.
doing that. Um,
Interesting. I had a discussion with a journalist mate of mine who does he does a bunch of all the like the sports stuff for Budweiser. So
mhm.
he started off as a reporter basically
Mm.
for newspapers and stuff, but then he went on to doing like digital sports editing for football mainly. And now he's got a new job with Budweiser. And we were having this discussion because I was getting the subtitles made for a short film that we'd done, and he and he wanted it done for just like web based videos, and he showed me some stats, and it seems like the majority of people they read the videos as opposed to actually listening to them because they're
Uh-huh.
often on like public transport or whatever at work, I guess, sneakily watching something. So apparently it's, I think this whole closed captioning thing is like, apparently it's the norm, man.
Yeah,
Not for me
yeah.
personally, but, it's weird.
Yeah, I don't even know how to turn it off. But anyways,
No.
good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, or good night to our Australian friends. We
Hmm.
are back for day number two. We're kicking it off a little bit later than yesterday, but we've got a jam-packed rest of the day. I think we're going to be back to back to back to back with artists and panels and the workshop. We've got a lot of artists for the workshop today, so if you didn't see yesterday's, definitely check that out. And we'll be talking about it before we get to it in a few hours. Um, this morning we are joined by Rutvig Vaid. I believe I said that correct. And
Yep.
I believe you're new to the group as well, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I just finished my first set with Tops, literally a few weeks ago, and I think I joined the group. Yeah, maybe end of Feb. I don't know. Yeah, so it's only
Okay.
been, and I've only joined your group. Yeah, literally what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think just in
Yeah.
preparation for the con. But like you said, you just
Mm,
finished up a set. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and a
Okay.
little bit of your history with art.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm born and raised in London, UK, not Canada or anywhere else. Yeah. In terms of like artwork, it was just one of those things that I never stopped doing from childhood. So I've always just made art, as most will probably attest to doing. I did my actually spent a prolonged period in education really when it comes to art. So I did a foundation art and design after college here in England, in South London, and then I went to Maidstone, which is a town in Kent, to do a what's known as a higher national diploma, which is kind of like the first couple of years of a bachelor's degree in graphics and illustration. And after that, I went off to the States because probably about 40% of my family are in the US. So I was in Georgia for about just under 3 years and did a bachelor's in fine art. Then I came back to the UK and went to Wales, where I did a master's in fine art. So I was basically painting. I was an abstract painter essentially. So I went from sort of really representational stuff, illustration, into just being really loose and free, and just working with really abstract work conceptually and literally on canvases. And then about, I would say, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, because drawing's always been something that I've always done. Uh, in the background, even though I was painting, just to keep that sort of hand to eye coordination thing. It is like training, basically, like basic core training, right? So I was always drawing, and I love Star Wars and pop culture stuff in general. So I started doing some portraits of some of my favorite characters and stuff. And then I was getting into things like Instagram and whatnot. So I just posted them just for a laugh, and people seemed to take to them. They started liking them. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just carry on doing this. And now it's kind of evolved to where that is like my main thing is basically pop culture portraiture, and with a particular emphasis in Star Wars stuff. And I'm not complaining because yeah, people like it. I like doing it, so it's all good. Does that kind of answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I was gonna say, I think you're actually the first person I phrased it in the way of like, hey, give us give us your history and art. But that's very
Yeah.
cool. Um, I've seen some of your stuff, and you were like, yeah, I
Yeah.
put it on Instagram, and they kind of took to it, and I'm like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, I mean, you can see sneak peek and some of the stuff in the background. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I've got
now,
props in the front, which I should probably get rid of. But yeah.
now you said
Sorry.
you just finished up your first set for
Hmm.
tops. What can you
Yeah.
tell us what set that was? You don't have to tell us any details. Just was it the Women of Star Wars or was it the
Yeah.
Jedi Chrome Perspectives or something?
Yeah, it was. I believe I'm allowed to say it was Chrome Perspectives.
Chrome
Yeah, so
Perspectives.
it was
Okay.
the Star Wars. Yeah, the Star Wars set, which was it was interesting experience. I actually asked for 100 blanks, thinking I'll be fine, it'll be fine, and thankfully, they only sent me 55. So well, 50. So the 5% is what I get to keep.
Hmm.
And Jesus, I struggled to finish those because I was so nervous about hitting those cards, the actual card, like attacking it and then screwing it up and ruining everything. That I basically spent too long, I think, doing roughs on my own sort of blanks and in my sketchbook and stuff. In fact, I've got one here. With this is just one of the roughs which I've decided to finish because it actually looks like him. But I did other versions which were just utter garbage, and yeah, and I really sort of I think underestimated how intense that process just making one of these cards can be. Like, and the beauty of these other guys is that they make it look so easy, right? So you can easily be lulled into this false sense of security that this will be a walk in the park until you actually
Hmm.
start doing it. And you're like, okay. Not just the fact that you're drawing, at this sort of scale, whereas I'm actually used to drawing quite large. You can get an impression here. Some of these things are quite big, and those are mostly all originals. So just adapting to drawing on that scale was difficult enough. But yeah, I've completed it with about 15 minutes to spare in terms of the deadline, literally. But that includes getting all the paperwork done and getting all the scans and sending all that stuff back. So yeah, I had literally about 15 minutes to spare, and it was excruciatingly stressful because I have a day job as well, unfortunately, which takes up probably far too much time, more time than it should. Um, Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, and so yeah, it was tough. But having said that, I'm itching to do another set to the point where I'm actually harassing them to send me more cards, which is probably not the way to go. But I don't care. I need to do more. So yeah,
Yeah, well, hey, I think starting off with 100 is probably a very lofty goal. I think what
yeah,
you were putting it very nicely, but what I think you were kind of getting at, and what you'll probably soon find out is that your timelines with tops or your deadlines with tops are very very tight. They from everything I've heard from other artists, you get 3 weeks to do some of these things, and with having a job on top of it and all that stuff, I
yeah,
can't imagine trying to crank out that many cards. I mean I'm sure you've heard me say it many times now since yesterday. I'm horrible. So I would never be able to do that. But yeah, that's certainly a challenge. But hey, I mean,
yeah.
I'm excited to see what you brought for us once the set finally gets released.
Mm,
And then because I know that I think they've kind of pushed that one back. I know they pushed Rise of Skywalker 2 back, but um,
yeah.
yeah, hopefully that goes well. I'm excited to see it again. We usually have a sketch fest, is what we call it.
Okay.
Every time that the set releases, Ping, one of the
Yeah.
admins, posts a big post for all the artists to then upload their scans of their pack inserts and also their artist returns that are
Okay,
available.
nice.
So that's always a lot of fun. We always look forward to that. I always
Yeah,
like to scroll through and check out everything that everybody did. So certainly look out for that
yeah,
once the set actually gets released.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, I guess you're relatively new
Mm,
to the top scene at least, and
mm.
new to our group. I know you guys have your own secret artist group. Can you not necessarily tell me about all I heard there's a secret handshake and a password and everything, but tell us a little bit about what it's been like to interact with some of the other artists who
Yeah,
have been with Tops for a little bit longer, or who are a little bit newer with you as well.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is a group. I don't know about secret handshakes, but this chap who there was an artist. So I've known at least one of the artists on there, Andrew Fry. I've known him for a few years now, and so he invited me to the group, and it was interesting. Yeah, a lot of it is kind of. I'll tell you what. Is a lot of it is, if it makes sense, kind of technology-based conversation. So they're talking. When I say technology, I mean sort of materials. They're talking about the card stock and stuff that's uh, not necessarily going to resonate with everybody. So it is interesting if you are an artist or if you're into visual arts and you want to get into that kind of stuff. Then there is something there that you can take from it. But for me, I basically started. I did post almost straight away because I joined that group just when my cards had arrived, I think. Uh, and really, it was just kind of asking people for not guidance as in like to hold my hand through any kind of process, but just sort of um, just general questions about the process and what I'm trying to remember exactly what it was that I asked, but yeah, it was kind of like help almost, and people were very quick to sort of come in and reassure and yeah, and kind of like guide you in places, especially there are like forms and stuff, there's contracts, there is all that element to it as well. And I'm kind of privileged, I suppose, in the sense that I have a manager. Well, it's my wife's manager actually, but he does sort of send the odd acting jobs and stuff. So it's for acting really. But he's because of all this stuff and because of Star Wars, he's got contacts at Tops. Mark Van Olen, I think, was one of his main guys because he would get images of his clients and stuff from those guys, and he's done this whole. He's dealt with Tops, he's dealt with the contracts and stuff before, so I had a bit of help from him already, but it was nice just to have the group to reaffirm that, but also then add to it, because they know things that he doesn't. So I was kind of really not mollycoddled, but I had a lot of help along the way, and that group is really supportive when it comes to that, and I rarely see a negative comment. I mean, I've spent a bit of time online as most people have now, and I guess I've been fortunate that I've only come across a handful of, I guess, what you call trolls or just negative, people. And sometimes they attack, and you think, oh, I can't deal with this. And this group, I have to say, is just full of so many positive people. All that negativity doesn't really seem to exist. Occasionally, the odd person might complain about, I don't know, materials not working out for them or whatever. But there's no malice, right? So I think one of the first comments I said was, "This is probably one of the nicest groups I've been in. It genuinely feels like a little safe haven. You know that you can ask a question in there and nobody's gonna point a finger and judge or whatever, or you post work up there and nobody's going to necessarily turn around and say, oh, that's garbage, or whatever. You get sort of honest critiques, but yeah, really supportive group. It's a nice place, but not in terms of the conversation as well. I don't think it's too dissimilar to what's already going on in your group, in the collectors group. When these guys pop in and it's just like you must get that impression of just pure positive energy, right? And yeah, that's really what it is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know. I talk to artists a lot when we pull their cards. I do a lot of group breaks, so I see a lot of sketches get pulled,
Yeah, nice.
and I like to reach out to the artist and talk to them about it a little bit. And every time I do, I mean everybody's very very positive, like you were saying, and
Yeah,
it definitely seems like a good group to be a part of. The
yeah,
artist that is so, and everybody's extremely talented. So I think a
yeah,
lot of them were talking yesterday about how much like mutual admiration there is.
yeah,
Jealous respect, I think, was a way they put it as well. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I'm sure that's something you'll be more familiar with here as you dig
yeah.
into it more. I think you said so. You said Andrew Fry was a buddy of yours or something, or you knew him from before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we, oddly enough, we've still not met yet because we're quite a distance away from each other. But I guess because of my worst wife's works in the films and stuff, people would come to her page or whatever, and they would find me that way, or they, I don't know, maybe he found a piece of work. I can't remember how we connected, but it was probably, I think, either just after Force Awakens came out. And so we've been chatting. We chat infrequently on online on Messenger and stuff, and sort of like each other's posts. And yeah, he was the guy who brought me to the Tops group. Once I'd signed with them though. So
Hmm.
there is a bit of that where, if you signed with Tops, then you're in this group. Although, I mean, don't hold me to that. There may be people in there who are, but yeah, that's the impression
Yeah,
I got anyway.
I know what you mean.
Mm,
I mean, I think we're all very familiar with Andrew's work, and he does some really, really fantastic stuff.
mm,
And I'm sure you're well aware that he's got his style that is pretty unique for the
yeah,
group. I don't think there's too many others doing it.
no,
But let's get into your style a little bit. I know you've got
sure.
a couple pieces behind you, but those look like they might be a little
Yeah.
difficult to remove. Do you have anything else that you might be able to show us?
No, I can pull these out. Hang on. I'll
Okay.
tell you what. I'll take the Darth Maul down. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it that well on this camera with all the reflections, but and it's quite big, I suppose. So what I can do is I can bring the details in. I'll pull it in closer when I talk about some of it. But so basically, this was part of a series that I made. For a show in Switzerland about 2 years ago, maybe. There's a big convention out there in Basel called Fantasy Basel.
Mm-hmm.
So I I know one of the guys. I don't know. He's not the show organizer, but he's one of the chaps who works with the show organizer. So we met up with him when they came over to London and stuff. And he's a prop collector. And we'd done a couple of shows before in Switzerland where he wanted to basically show my work with alongside the film props and stuff that he has. So I created this set where I started going back into color. So basically, I started off in the beginning. My work's always dealt with color when I was painting, but the portraiture was always just black and white. So although I want to start bringing color into it somehow, but bringing all of my different sensibilities to it. So, topography, graphic design, portraiture, and painting and everything. So I designed this series where I kind of semi played it safe with a graphite portraiture. Um, but I mean, you'll see that there's a bit of abstraction in there already. So any random mark making and stuff that happens, I tend not to erase too much. So I just carry on, just trying to evolve it, as long as I don't lose any likeness, which is kind of what happened with this Kylo Ren card that I was working on. But kind of got lucky with these ones, I suppose, where I didn't lose the likeness and was still able to keep going abstract with it. Uh, and I decided to add all the color. So it's called Star Wars Villains. I did a whole series. I did Maul. I did Kylo Ren, which is in the back as well. I did a Vader, which actually sold at the show. I did a Palpatine, a Count Dooku, and the idea was I might carry on doing them because this is, rather than just being the straightforward graphite. This was kind of a bit more. I felt a bit more interesting because there's a bit more of the graphic design element. I took the sabers, this outline of the saber,
Yeah.
and painted it with this sort of with the red, obviously because it's significant of the Sith, But in the red, I don't know if you can see really. Sorry, there's a lot of reflections. But so for this piece is called Revenge, and I try to capture each individual character's personality to an extent in the way I painted these backgrounds. So if you
Yeah.
look closely at this one, and I've got a scan of it, there's sort of slash marks. They're still pretty
Mm-hmm.
loose, but I just took like a really fine brush and just did these really aggressive, sharp, pointy slash marks in there as well, just to sort of accentuate the intensity of this chap. But at the same time, there was something a little romantic that was coming out of the style, the painterly style, and mixing that with the graphite. So I wanted to introduce topography anyway, and I wanted to do each of the episode symbols anyway, so that you've got the one there. But then I started adding text, this sort of script, and it's just from a stencil. So I took a basic stencil and then touched up here and there and rubbed it out and whatnot. But I've got the Cora Ratama lyrics going off in the background, um, and this is kind of where I'm heading towards now. So I'm moving away a little bit from, if I can just show you an older piece. Let's see. So
Yeah, so while
yeah,
you're grabbing that, I think that's really
yeah,
cool that I mean there's a very very specific purpose for the background.
yeah,
And I actually pulled up the scan, and I probably wouldn't
yeah,
have known the purpose. I mean, it definitely makes a lot of sense, but
yeah,
just looking at it from a surface level, the background just looks, it looks great, and having you tell us what it represented or what the reasoning
yeah,
behind it was is really really
yeah.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, in for example, with the Palpatine portrait, which I don't have here to show, but I can send a scan of that. In the red of that, I've tried to incorporate all of the different elements that I had in all the other portraits. So on Kylo Ren's one, I'll pull that out actually first. Let me just quickly show you. So this is quite an old one. This is just a straight up portrait of Ren from around 2015. So you can see it's
Hmm.
pretty. There is a bit of graphic design elements coming in, but generally it's just a straightforward sort of graphite portrait. But then I decided I wanted to do more. So with the Kylo Ren, this piece is actually called. I titled it "Let the Past Die." The quote from Last Jedi. Regardless of what
Hmm.
people may think of the film, there is some really good dialogue in there. And
Hmm.
I don't know if you can really tell, but in the background of this one, there's splodges. I've splattered the red to sort of mimic blood,
Mm.
droplets of blood marks and
Hmm.
stuff. So it's this idea that this guy literally has blood on his hands because he killed one of the most beloved characters in the entire franchise.
Right.
And in the Palpatine one, in the Palpatine portrait, you'll see all of these elements. So everything that's in each of these coming into there. So the slash marks
Really.
are in there, the blood marks are in there. Yeah, yeah. So the Palpatine for me kind of represents all of it, right? As
Yeah.
he said in the last film, is all the Sith. So I wanted to. I mean, these predate Rise of Skywalker, but he's always kind of
Hmm.
been that puppet master. So I wanted all of the elements of each of these characters because it's arguable that none of these other guys would necessarily exist if it wasn't for him and his manipulation and whatnot. So I
Hmm.
wanted to bring in those kinds of ideas into the work. Um, yeah, and I just enjoy, like with this one, for example, just because the eight, sorry,
Yeah.
symbol, but I had to keep it the same scale as the others, but because it was so big, it was kind of completely overshadowing the lightsaber hilt.
Hmm.
So they're just playing around in roughs and saying, okay, I'll move this over here, or I'll move it here, and just doing different things. It just makes it a bit more involved and a bit more thought process going into it,
Yeah.
which I prefer. Yeah,
That's very very cool. We're running out of time here, so we're
sure,
gonna kind of wrap this up. What I want to do here
absolutely.
real quick, and you're
Hmm.
not gonna be able to see this, but I want to share my screen and I pulled up your booth in the event.
Okay.
Here we've got a scan of the mall that you were just talking about, and if you have a scan of the Kylo and the Palpatine and stuff, I think that would be really
Yep.
cool for people to see. Just
Yep.
let them know, like, hey, this isn't available because I think that's that's probably something that would be pretty popular. But I think it would be really cool to be able to see those. We've got a
Yeah.
couple.
I
It
think it
looks
should
like
be
you've got
there.
some prints on here.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of characters on there, which is really cool. This looks like some personal
Yeah.
cardstock.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So there's these little they're prints though. So there's
okay,
these, I don't know if the camera's still on me, but there's these sort of prints that I made, uh, printed on the back as well, signed by my
okay,
wife. In case anybody's wondering, my wife she's a creature actor. She did the mocap for Maz in the first film.
hmm,
Um, First film meaning Force Awakens. Yeah, so those are just prints that I did from originals. But I am starting now to do personal sketch cards as well. So I'm working on what I'm going to do with the background. I've
okay,
sold one today actually, so that's pretty cool.
perfect.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're doing some personal sketch cards. I know that's what
Hmm.
a lot of people are into that in this group.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a card collecting group, but
yeah, absolutely.
certainly we all collect other things as well. But
Yeah,
commissioning an artist to do a personal sketch card is always a lot of fun. Real quick before we wrap this up, Kevin was asking, do you have a
yep.
favorite character to draw?
I do, yeah, and it's Darth Vader. Yeah, I I actually did a live drawing of Vader in Switzerland again at another event called Winter Cinema, Winter Kino. I don't know if there's a video of it or not, but it was basically projected onto a gargantuan cinema screen back in 2016 in front of about 2,000 people. So that was kind of daunting, but really fascinating to see happen. And then they screened Rogue One, and I watched Rogue One in German, so that was interesting. Yeah,
Oh, very cool.
but yeah, Darth Vader is my guy. Yeah, he's my go-to guy. I love that character. I grew up with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's my boy. Yeah, I even have a car number plate called Vader. Basically, VA 10 for Vaid, which is my surname, and then
Yeah.
DER.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
on that side.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, Vader's my favorite character, and so that's cool to hear that you enjoy drawing him. I noticed a lot of dark side theme, at least with the pieces
Yeah,
that you showed us.
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
anyways, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. It was great to meet you, and welcome to the group. I know you're pretty new, and hopefully gonna be here for a long time. Based on the artwork you're doing,
So,
it looks fantastic. Can't wait to see what you got
thank
coming out
you.
in Chrome Perspectives and all the other future sets to come. Um, Guys, go check out Rutvig's booth. It's over in the event. Like I said, or like he just said, he is doing some personal sketch cards. So definitely try to get on his list for those. A couple of these pieces looks like that mall is available. So if you like what you see, go check him out. Drop him a comment. Drop him a few dollars to get something. Um, and yeah. Anyways, did you have anything else you wanted to say to everybody before we move on?
Uh, Not really. Just thanks for all the encouragement and support that I've seen the group giving all the artists and stuff. This is such a fantastic event, actually. Really interesting. This might become the new normal, perhaps. Who knows? But yeah, thank you for having me be a part of it, man. It's
Yeah,
been really nice.
absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.